Welcome to the 2300 Pick Six podcast. I'm your host, Dave Walker, about to do NFL schedule analysis part 3. It would have been done over the weekend, but due to Saturday and Sunday, I was tired when I got back in from Atlantic City going to the casino at Golden Nugget, which I won $500, by the way. Thank you, Curse Savannah J, for that. So I was a little bit tired. I didn't get in until about 4 in the morning that day, and I was literally beat and burnt out that day. So the show is happening right now. So we're going to do right now our next part is the third part of this right now. So I'm going to shuffle this deck, and we'll decide which 4 teams it could be. Or it could be more. We don't know yet. So the deck is going to get shuffled. Give me a sec. All righty. The deck has been shuffled. The first one is going to be Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All righty. So with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, did not make the playoffs. They had a very good run in the beginning with Baker Mayfield. Some of their games were cardiac Bucks games. What that means is they were at a lot of close games. Edge Emeka was a good wide receiver during that time, but then after that, he declined a little bit. They did not make the playoffs due to some bullshit way because the fact of the matter, yeah, they did beat the Carolina Panthers, but unfortunately, the New Orleans Saints could not get the job done. So they were eliminated. But they did make a trade, trading Mike Evans off to the 49ers. So a little bit of that production is going to go down. So I don't know how Baker's going to do. Yes, they still have Baker Mayfield. They still have Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. But now you're relying on basically more on Chris Godwin, him as an aging receiver, Cade Otton, and Emeka. So we're going to see how Emeka does in his full second year. So I'm going to pull up the Buccaneer schedule right now. All righty. Tampa Bay schedule starts off with their first game of the season, begins with them taking on the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow usually does not do good on opening day. He did break the curse last year, the curse of Joe Burrow on opening day. In this one, I'm going to give the Bengals the win here. They get the win here. I think this will be a very, very close game, but the Bucs lose this one. So I'm going to take the Bengals for that one. The second one we have is the Buccaneers and the Browns. Tampa Bay rebounds after that, gets the win. They're going to be 1-1. Against Minnesota at home, that one will be a win. They get the win there. They're going to be 2-1 at this point. They'll have an easy win there. Against the Packers, if I do get to Green Bay tonight or if whenever sometime, I don't really think the Packers are going to be good this year. Now, if this game would have been in Green Bay, I would have took the Packers in this one. But Tampa at home, I'm going to take the Bucs in this one. They get a win here. Against Dallas on Thursday Night Football, that will be a loss right there. The Cowboys are going to beat them at home in a very, very close game. I can see Dallas winning that one. Against Pittsburgh, they're going to bounce back from that game right there. They're going to bounce back and sack Aaron Rodgers. They'll get the win there. Pending what happens with Vita Vea, because I don't know if he's holding out because he's trying to get money, so we'll wait and see. Against Carolina, these two are going to split. This first one's in Carolina. I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers in this one. Carolina won a lot of games at home last year, and I see Carolina getting a win here. Against the Atlanta Falcons, they get that win back at home. They bounce back up that ugly loss to the Carolina Panthers. They get this win here. They play a little bit close at time, but I see Tampa pulling off and escaping with a win. Against Chicago in Chicago, that will be a loss right there. The Bears will win that game hands down. Against Detroit in Detroit, they're going to lose that game because Detroit has handled Tampa Bay very, very easily. So that is a loss after their bye week. Against Carolina at home, they bounce back after a 2-game losing streak. They get the win here, beat the Carolina Panthers close either by a game-winning field goal or in an overtime. Against the Chargers, I'm going to say the Chargers for this one for now. Even though I think the Chargers could charge that game, but I'm going to take the Chargers. Chargers are going to get the win here. They're going to beat Tampa. Against Baltimore, they're going to lose that game against Baltimore. Against the Saints at home, they get a win there. They bounce back. Another close game there. Against Atlanta in Atlanta, they get a win there and bounce back. They get a win there. Against the LA Rams, that is a loss. The Rams are going to smoke them if they're playing for playoff spot. And against New Orleans Saints, I think the Saints could probably pull a fuck you game or eliminate them from contention. So I'm going to take the Saints in this one. So a breakdown of the Bucs record right now. They will be 0-1 against the Bengals, 1-1 against the Browns, 2-1 against Minnesota, 3-1 against Green Bay, 3-2 against Dallas, 4-2 against Pittsburgh, 4-3 against Carolina, 5-3 against Atlanta, 5-4 against Chicago, 5-5 against Detroit, 6-5 against Carolina, 6-6 against the Chargers, 6-7 against the Ravens, 7-7 against the Saints, 8-7 against the Bucks, against the Falcons, 8-8 against the Rams, and 8-9. They're going to go 8-9, so I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. So this will be the first. This will be the second time they don't make it. So not looking that good for the Bucks. Next one on the list is the Arizona Cardinals. Ooh, now we get to some bad ones here. All righty. For the Arizona Cardinals right now, Kyler Murray is no longer there. He is with the Minnesota Vikings. Rich Gannon has been fired, and right now they have a quarterback battle. I don't know if it's going to be Jacoby Brissett because he's holding out to get money. It could be the quarterback they drafted, or it could be Gardner Minshew. So I don't know who the Arizona Cardinals are going to get for their quarterback. And I'm going to say this right now as a prediction. This is my own quote, Paul Heyman. This is a prediction, not a spoiler. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. probably is going to get traded in the deadline if it gets that really bad for the Cardinals, which I think it will get that bad for the Arizona Cardinals. He will be traded off to somewhere. Now, I don't know to whom. We'll wait and see who he goes to. But I can see it this year. I'm going to call it. I think he is going to get traded off because right now it's not going to be that good. Now, if he can produce and the Cardinals prove us all wrong, then okay, then more power to you. But if not, I just don't see it. All righty. So for the Cardinals schedule, they play on week 1 against the Los Angeles Chargers. That will be a loss. They're going to be on. That's a loss. Next, they play the Seahawks. The Seahawks are going to smoke them. That's going to be a loss. Against the 49ers in San Francisco. That is a loss. The 49ers are going to smoke them. Against the Giants, the Smurfs. And how I say this is going to make me want to retch. And once I get to the Giants, because I'm going to be unbiased. I have no damn choice much. I can't stand the state of New York right now. That is going to be a loss. Against Detroit, they're going to get smoked by the Lions. Against the Rams, I wouldn't be shocked if the Rams shut out the Cardinals. I would not be shocked if Myles Garrett gets to whoever the hell the quarterback is. I'm not going to be shocked if the Rams smoke them and shut them out. Denver, I wouldn't be shocked if we had back-to-back shutouts. Broncos get a win here. Against Dallas, we usually do not do good against the Cardinals at times. This one's at home. Kyler Murray is no longer there. This is finally the Cowboys finally get their revenge on the Cardinals. But I see the Cowboys winning in an ugly fashion by a score or maybe a field goal by Brandon Aubrey. Cowboys get a win here. In Seattle, that is a loss. They're going to get smoked again. Against the Rams at home, getting smoked yet again. Against the Chiefs, Mahomes boy will smoke them. That's a loss. Against the Commanders, I say that's the first win because I got a feeling Washington would blow that game. Some odd reason, I see Washington would fuck that game up. That's a win. Against Philadelphia, that is a loss. Against the Jets, that is a win. Against the Saints, that is a loss. Against the Raiders, that is a win. Against the 49ers, that's a loss because I think the 49ers probably might be fighting for that division and trying to get a playoff spot. So a breakdown of the Arizona Cardinals record. 0-1 against the Chargers, 0-2 against the Seahawks, 0-3 against the 49ers, 0-4 against the Giants, 0-5 against Detroit, 0-6 against LA, 0-7 against the Broncos, 0-8 against Dallas, 0-9 against the Seahawks, 0-10 against the Rams, 0-11 against the Cardinals, against the Chiefs, 1-11 against the Commanders, 1-12 against the Eagles, 2-12 against the Jets, 2-13 against the Saints, 3-13 against the Raiders, 3-14. I have the Cardinals going. So right now, that is the Arizona Cardinals record is 3-14. So I could see that it's going to be a rebuild and it's going to be a lot that happens for the Arizona Cardinals. Our third team on the list is wild card. All right, so it's my choice. So let's see who I'm going to choose here. I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to do the Jacksonville Jaguars. All righty. So the Jaguars. I really didn't think that team would do anything that year. Yeah, they traded off Travis Etienne. Trevor Lawrence was very, very hot during the month of December, but in the playoffs, threw a late interception and lost the game against the Bills. But right now, this team is going to be in a competition with the Texans trying to fight for that division. So we're going to wait and see what occurs with the Texans. And by the way, for people who are new on this channel, there will be some AEW cracks on Tony Khan. If there's stuff I don't like. I did not like the fact that Ty J lost against the Dominion, and that Mercedes Moné is in the fucking finals. That'll be another day because I'm going to try to keep my blood pressure down right now at the moment, talking about that and even thinking about it. But we're going to break down the Jags schedule. Here we go. First week of the season, they play against the Cleveland Browns at home. That will be a win right there. Against the Denver Broncos, Denver get their revenge from last season in Denver. That will be a loss. Against the New England Patriots at home, that will be a win right there. They'll get a win there. Against the Bengals in Cincinnati, I'm going to say a loss right there. The Bengals, I think that game could be very, very close and competitive, but I see the Bengals pulling that one off. Against Philadelphia and England, that one's going to be a win where Jacksonville gets the win there because Jacksonville does very, very good overseas. Against Houston overseas, that one will be a win. Again, they're very good overseas. Against the Colts at home, pending who the quarterback is, I don't know if it's going to be Daniel Jones, if he's going to be back in time, which I think he will. I don't know how he's going to be for the ACL injury, but in Jacksonville, I see the Jags getting the win there. Against Baltimore, that's going to be a loss. I see the Ravens humbling them right there. Against the Titans, they get a bounce-back win. They smoke Tennessee. Against the Smurfs in New York, that one's going to be a win. I have a win for that one. They're going to beat the Smurfs there. Very close because with Harbaugh, I'm not saying that the Giants are going to go to the playoffs, but I think the Giants may have a little bit better of a record of improvement. Against the Titans at home, that is a win. They're going to sweep the Titans. Against the Bears, that will be a loss. I think the Bears win in a cardiac Bears game in an overtime or by a game-winning field goal. Against Pittsburgh at home, that one will be a win. They bounce back with that one. Against the Texans in Houston, that one will be a loss. Against Dallas in Dallas, I say Dallas gets the win here. I think Dallas pulls off a close one. I'm going to say the Cowboys pull off a close one there. Against the Commanders, they bounce back after that loss to the Cowboys. Against the Colts in Indianapolis, I got a feeling the Colts could probably pull a fuck you game here. So I'm going to say a loss there, and that could be a fuck you game because if it's Daniel Jones and he does have like a renaissance and they try again, I'm going to say a loss there. So I'm going to break down the Jags schedule. They will be 1-0 against Cleveland, 1-1 against Denver, 2-1 against New England, 2-2 against the Bengals, 3-2 against Philadelphia, 4-2 against Houston, 5-2 against Indy, 5-3 against the Ravens, 6-3 against the Titans, 7-3 against the Giants, 8-3 against the Titans, 8-4 against the Bears, 9-4 against the Steelers, 9-5 against the Texans, 9-6 against Dallas, 10-6 against Washington. So 10-7 they'll go. They'll make the wild card, but I don't know if they're going to win their division. That will be a tough one. And our final team, drum roll please, is never mind. We're going to keep this going. So there's going to be 4 more teams or whatever. So this show will continue. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so the first card is a wild card. So I'm going to make that pick right now. That will be the Houston Texans. For Houston, right now how they played last year, they struggled a little bit. C.J. Stroud was out with a concussion. They picked up David Montgomery, so he's no longer with Detroit. So they're going to have a good 1-2 combination in him and Woody Marks. Now, they have found something in their defense they were using. Now, can they use that same formula to finally get over the hump and win a divisional and get to their first AFC championship? So we're going to wait and see what occurs with them. So I'm going to pull up the Texans schedule right now. All righty. So for the Texans, their first game starts off against the Buffalo Bills at home. Houston has handled Buffalo so many times badly, and I see Houston winning with the same formula they did last year with that defense. They're going to be 1-0. Against Cincinnati at home, they're going to be 2-0. Against the Colts, who, again, with Daniel Jones, I say Houston wins close. They're going to be 3-0. Against Dallas, in Dallas, we do not do good in Houston against Houston, and us having that Brazil trip, I see us losing there. So I'm going to see that as a win right there. Against Tennessee, in Tennessee, that is a win. Against the Jags, that's going to be the first loss because that's in England. They bounce back beating the Smurfs at home. Against the Chargers, how they've handled the Chargers so many times, I say a win there. They're going to win that one. Against Cleveland, they'll get a win. At home against Indianapolis, a win. Against Baltimore at home, they'll get a win there. They'll beat Baltimore at home. Against Pittsburgh, that will be a win. Against Washington, that will be a win there. Against the Jaguars in Houston, a win. Against Philadelphia, Philly has always had their number, but unfortunately, I think this will change. I think the Texans are going to get them with that defense. Against the Packers, that will be a win. Against the Titans at home, that's going to be a win because they're fighting for a 1 seed. I can see it. So I'm going to break down Houston's record. Surprisingly, I only have them having one loss here. So Houston's record is going to be, they're going to be 1-0 against the Texans. Against the Bills. 2-0 against Cincinnati. 3-0 against Indianapolis. 4-0 against Dallas. 5-0 against the Tennessee Titans. 6-0 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. 5. Let's do this again. So it was 1-0 against Buffalo, 2-0 against Cincinnati, 3-0 against Indy, 4-0 against Dallas, 5-0 against the Titans, 5-1 against Jacksonville, 6-1 against New York, the Giants, 7-1 against the Chargers, 8-1 against Cleveland, 9-1 against Indianapolis, 10-1 against Baltimore, 11-1 against the Steelers, 12-1 against the Commanders, 13-1 against the Jaguars. They get their revenge. 14-1 against Philadelphia. 15-1 against the Packers. So I have them going 16-1. Now, I don't know. Like I said, I'm going on a whim here with this. Now, if it goes a little bit higher, then if it does not match it, I'll hit this button where I was wrong. For those new out there, I do a segment called Where D-Walk is Right and Where D-Walk is Wrong. So that is a sample of that, which is I recap all the games. If I'm right, you'll hear this. And if I'm wrong, you'll hear this. There you go. So those are the ones we have if I'm right or if I'm wrong. But we'll wait and see how we go with the Houston Texans. Well, we're going to keep this going because we have extras. So our next team is going to be, I don't know why my phone just got unplugged. All righty. Our next team is going to be out of this draw for, it's an NFC team. So it's my pick on an NFC team. We will do the Rams. For the LA Rams, they made the biggest steal. Like I said, they almost could have made the Super Bowl, but they lost to the Seattle Seahawks. Made the biggest steal getting Myles Garrett, getting Trent McDuffie, trying to fix their defense, which I've said that their defense is a bend, don't break. This year, I don't see it being bend, don't break. I think this could be a top 10 defense, and I think it could be a very much a top 5 in the top 5 category. But we're going to see how the Rams do this year. Now, Matthew Stafford signed for a 2-year deal. Can he get another Super Bowl and make it his second one? We'll wait and see because he played very, very outstanding football and having an MVP-like career. So we're going to pull up the Rams schedule right now. First game of the season, they play against the LA Rams of the San Francisco 49ers in Australia. That will be a win. On Monday night, they play against the Smurfs at home. That is a win. They're going to smoke the Giants. Then they go into Denver on Sunday Night Football. I see that one being a defensive struggle, but I see the Denver Broncos pulling that one off. They're going to be 2-1. Against Philadelphia. At times, the Eagles have had the Rams number in Philadelphia. But unfortunately, because of the whole A.J. Brown situation, him getting traded off, I see this as the Rams finally getting one over on Philadelphia. So the Rams are going to get the win here. Against the Bills at home, that one will be a win. They're going to win that one close, maybe by a field goal or in an overtime. Against the Arizona Cardinals at home, that is a win. Against the Raiders in Las Vegas, they're going to smoke the Raiders. I see Myles Garrett getting to Kirk Cousins and sacking the hell out of him. That is a win. Against the Chargers at home, the Battle of L.A., I see the Rams winning that one at home. Well, technically, they're both at home, so it's the Battle of L.A. Against the Arizona Cardinals, that one will be a win. Against the Packers, that one will be a win. Against the Chiefs, against my homeboy, Mahomes takes a loss here. I see the Rams winning that one. Against the 49ers in San Francisco, I'm going to call this a humbling right here. I think that the 49ers are going to humble them. I think the 49ers are going to be in this race with them. So I'm going to call that a humbling. Against Dallas, they bounce back. We lose in a close fashion. We're going to lose that one to them because they're going to be very, very hot in the month of December. In Seattle, that one will be a loss. Against the Bucs, that one will be a win. They bounce back. And then against Seattle in the final game of the season, which I think could be the Sunday night game where it could be the battle for a 1 seed division or battle for a higher playoff seeding. I see them getting the win there, and they split with the Seahawks. So a breakdown out of the Rams' schedule. They will be 1-0 against the 49ers, 2-0 against the Giants, 2-1 against Denver, 3-1 against Philly, 4-1 against Buffalo, 5-1 against the Cardinals, 6-1 against the Raiders, 7-1 against the Chargers, 8-1 against the Commanders, 9-1 against the Arizona Cardinals, 10-1 against Green Bay, 10-2 against the Chiefs, 10-3 against the Rams, against 49ers, 11-3 against the Cowboys, 11-4 against the Seahawks, 12-4 against the Bucs. So I'm going to have them going 13-4. And I think this will be one of my Super Bowl picks. When we get to the end, I'll talk about that more in depth. We have another NFC team. So we're going to see who that is. I'm going to pick Philadelphia Eagles. I really did not see them trading off A.J. Brown in this situation. I thought he was going to stay and see how his demeanor was in training camp. Now this is going to be Devontae Smith as a number 1 receiver. You have Mekhi Lemon as your rookie receiver. We're going to see how he does. You still have Dallas Goedert. You still have that defense. But a lot of people have gone and come and gone right now. But I will say this for Philadelphia, and this is just my little spoiler. It could be a little bit of X-File. If it gets that bad with the receiving core, with Devontae Smith or Mekhi Lemon, and it's not producing the way they want, I would not be shocked by the deadline if Philadelphia made a move for either Marvin Harrison Jr. or Garrett Wilson or whoever receiver that's trying to get out. I would not be shocked if they try to make a move for one of them. If the Cowboys have first place in that division, we don't know, but that is what we're going to go with. But we're going to pull up the Eagles schedule right now. First game of the season they have is against the Washington Commanders at home. That one I say Philadelphia is going to win. They're going to win that one close. I'd probably say maybe in an overtime or by a late-minute field goal. So they're going to be 1-0. Against the Titans at home in Tennessee, you'll be 2-0. They're going to win there. Against the Bears on Monday Night Football, that's going to be a loss right there. I think that Philly's going to come in a little too cocky, and I can see the Bears handling them with ease. So they're going to be 2-1. Against the Rams, that's going to be a loss. They're going to be 2-2 because I think Myles Garrett's going to get to Jalen Hurts. Against the Jaguars in the UK, that is a loss. Against Carolina, that's a bounce-back win. They get a win there. Against Dallas, some odd reason, I think that Philly's going to pull a fuck you game on us. We're going to have a fuck you game. And I think Philadelphia is going to humble us. So we're going to take a loss there. Against Washington, they get a win there. Against the Smurfs at home, they get a win there. Against the Steelers at home, a win. Against Dallas on Thanksgiving, that will be a loss. They're going to get humbled by the Cowboys. Against the Cardinals, a win. Against the Colts, a win. Against Seattle, that will be a loss. I think Jack Charbonnet may run over them, or Smith and Digg was going to have a good game. Against Houston at home, I could see Houston pulling that one off. That's a loss. Against the 49ers in San Francisco, the Niners have handled the Eagles so much right now, and I can see the Niners handling them again. I have the 49ers win that one. And then against the Smurfs in the final game of the season, a win. So the Eagles' record is going to consist of this. 1-0 against the Commanders, 2-0 against the Titans, 2-1 against the Bears, 2-2 against the Rams, 2-3 against the Jags, 3-3 against the Panthers, 4-3 against Dallas, 5-3 against Washington, 6-3 against the Giants, 7-3 against the Steelers, 7-4 against Dallas, 8-4 against the Cardinals, 9-4 against the Colts, 9-5 against the Seahawks, 9-6 against Houston, 9-7 against the 49ers. They're going to go 10-7. Now, I don't know if it's going to be enough to get them in a wild card. I still think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't know how far they're going to go. It could be probably maybe a 1-and-done or a 2-and-done. And the final card in the deck. Second time we do the drum roll again. Damn, another draw four. So we're going to continue. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's see what the fourth card is. So it's a skip. So that card is going to get skipped right now. So let's draw 2. This will get skipped. Wild card, my choice again. So I'm going to take and pick the Los Angeles Chargers. For the Chargers, have a good coach in Jim Harbaugh. Justin Herbert was there. He was injured, didn't have an O-line, so I'm hoping they have an O-line. Vidal and Conkey had very good games, but I'm hoping it's enough to keep him in it. Now, also I'm hoping in this for the Chargers with Herbert, can they finally win a playoff game if they do make it this year to a playoff? Because if they don't, I don't know what Harbaugh is going to do. Do you make a change at quarterback? Do you go to someone else? We'll wait and see what they do, but we'll see. So let's see what occurs there. Let's put these 2 up. All righty. We're going to pull up the Charger schedule right now. All righty. So for the Chargers, first game of the season they play against is the Arizona Cardinals. That's going to be a win right there. They're going to be 1-0. Then they play at home against the Raiders. That is a win. Then they go to Buffalo. That's going to be a loss. I could see Josh Allen having a win there or the Chargers in that game. Against the Seahawks in Seattle, that one will be a loss. Against the Broncos at home, I see another split here. They get a win here. Against the Chiefs, they get the win at home. Again, that's in Arrowhead. I'm going to say the Chiefs get a win here, but I see another split between these two here. So I'm going to say they get the win over them, and they're going to lose that first one, but they'll win a second meeting. Against the Rams in LA, even though this is the Battle of LA, I am going to take the Rams here because the Rams have a defense, and they are going to get to Herbert. Against the Texans, I see the Texans getting a win there. I can see Herbert throwing another 5 picks to Houston. Against Baltimore, the Harbaugh Bowl, I see Baltimore. No, wait a minute. It's not Harbaugh Bowl no more. No, I forgot. Harbaugh's with the Giants. No, scratch that. So against Baltimore, I see Baltimore getting the win there. Against the Jets at home, they get a win there. Against the Patriots, I see New England getting a win here. I think the Charger game. Against Tampa at home, against Tampa Bay, that one will be a win. Against the Raiders, they get a win there. Against the 49ers, that one is going to be a loss. I think the 49ers will win that one. Against the Dolphins, they get a win and bounce back. Against the Chiefs, they humble the Chiefs and get a win. And then against Denver, I see a loss there because I can see Denver trying to fight for a wild card spot or trying to get the division. So we're going to break down that right now of the Chargers record. Chargers record is going to consist of 1-0 against the Cards, 2-0 against the Raiders, 2-1 against Buffalo, 2-2 against Seattle, 3-2. Let's do this again. So it was 1-1 against Arizona, 1-0 against Arizona, 1-1 against the Raiders, 2-1 against the Bills, 2-2 against Seattle, 3-2 against Denver, 3-3 against the Chiefs, 3-4 against the Rams, 3-5 against Houston, 3-6 against Baltimore, 4-6 against the Jets, 4-7 against the Patriots, 5-7 against Tampa, 6-7 against the Raiders, 6-8 against the 49ers, 7-8 against the Dolphins, 8-8 against the Chiefs. So they're going to go 8-9. They're not going to make the playoffs. So anything can change. So we'll wait and see what changes during that time frame. I'll check off the Chargers. Yes, I did. All right, next one is wild card, my choice. So let's see who I'm going to choose in this one. Who have we not done? All right, I'm going to do the Pittsburgh Steelers. So for the Steelers right now, Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers have reunited. So they're coaching again. He's coaching again. Now, I don't know if this is going to be Aaron Rodgers' last season, which I pray to God I hope it is his last season because I want that asshole to retire. Ugh. Please retire. Please. Ugh. So they still have DK Metcalf. They tried to get Mekhi Lemon in the draft, but the Eagles scooped him up. Defensive-wise, it's going to be a little bit okay. This is going to be the first time without Mike Tomlin. They still got J.J. Watt. So we're going to see how the Steelers do this year. So I'm going to pull up the Steelers schedule. Steelers schedule consists of their first game is against the Atlanta Falcons at home against Atlanta. They'll get a win there. They'll beat Atlanta at home. They're going to get a win there. They're going to be 1-0. Against New England, in New England, that's going to be a loss. I'm saying that could be a close one there, but they're going to take a loss there. They're going to be 1-1. Against the Bengals at home, Joe Burrow is going to smoke the Steelers. He's going to smoke them. That is going to be a loss. Against Cleveland, now that Myles Garrett is going into Jarrett Verse, I can see the Steelers getting the win here. Against the Colts, I see a win there close. It's going to be an ugly one. Against Tampa, that one will be a loss. Against New Orleans, that one will be a loss. Against Cleveland, you get a win. Against Cincinnati, that is a loss. They're going to get swept. In the Battle of PA in Philadelphia, that one will be a loss. They're going to lose that one. Against Denver, that one will be a loss. Against the Texans, that one will be a loss. Against the Jags, that's going to be a loss. Against Baltimore at home, I really don't think this division. I don't know if the Ravens are going to win the division. I might think more likely. I think it's going to be the Bengals. But I'm going to say a win here. This is going to be the Ravens fuck you game. They're going to get a win there. Against Carolina, that one will be a loss. Against Tennessee, a win. And then against Baltimore, the final game of the season, that one will be a loss. So a breakdown of their schedule is 1-0 against Atlanta, 1-1 against New England, 1-2 against Cincinnati, 2-2 against Cleveland, 3-2 against the Colts, 3-3 against Tampa, 3-4 against the Saints, 4-4 against Cleveland, 4-5 against Cincinnati, 4-6 against Philadelphia, 4-7 against Denver, 4-8 against Houston, 4-9 against the Jags, 5-9 against the Ravens, 5-10 against the Carolina Panthers, 6-10 against the Titans. So I have them going 6-12. Let me do this record again because I think I'm going to mess this up. Let's do this again. We're going to do the record over again because it's not making sense. So 1-0 against Atlanta, 1-1 against the Patriots, 1-2 against Cincinnati, 2-2 against Cleveland, 3-2 against the Colts, 3-3 against Tampa, 3-4 against the Saints, 4-4 against Cleveland, 4-5 against Cincinnati, 4-6 against Philly, 4-7 against Denver, 4-8 against Houston, 4-9 against the Jags, 5-9 against the Ravens, 5-10 against the Panthers, 6-10 against the Titans. So I have them going 6-11. They will not make the playoffs and not win that division. And our final one, if this is the final one, the NFC card. So this is going to be the final one. So we're going to pick another NFC team. Speaking of which, we're going to go with the Green Bay Packers. For the Packers, I don't think that this team is going to do good this year. After last year, they barely made it into the playoffs. They had a big lead against the Chicago Bears, and then they blew it. I think they made the stupidest mistake in the world was re-signing Matt LaFleur to a deal because I go to him, what has he done for you lately? Since being there with Aaron Rodgers the first year, farthest you made it to was an NFC championship, and you lost to the 49ers. Then we go into COVID years, you lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home. Then after that, you lost to the 49ers in Rodgers' final year in a divisional to the San Francisco 49ers. Then you did not make the playoffs that year in Rodgers' final year. Then after that, with the Jordan Love era, you made it to the playoff beating my Cowboys, but then losing in a wild card to the San Francisco 49ers. Then it was you did not make the playoff. Then you lost in the playoffs to the Philadelphia Eagles. And then recently lost to the Chicago Bears where you had a big lead and then blew it. They had Michael Parsons. He is out. Now, I don't know when he's going to be back with his ACL injury. And they did lose some play like Kenny Clark. He went to the Dallas Cowboys. But for me, I don't think that this team's going to do good. And I think that battle in the division is going to be more between Detroit and the Chicago Bears. So I'm going to pull up the Packers schedule right now. All right. The Packers schedule consists of first game of the season they play is against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. That one is going to be a loss. Minnesota does very good at home. I see the Vikings pulling off the win there. Against the Jets, they rebound and get a win there. They're going to be 1-1. Against the Falcons at home, you get a win there. You're going to be 2-1. You'll be 2-1. Against Tampa in Tampa, that is a loss. Against the Bears, that one will be a loss. The Bears get a win. Against Dallas, this one will not end in a tie. This will be Dallas getting their revenge on the Packers in Green Bay, where the Cowboys get a win. Against Detroit in Detroit, Detroit gets the win there. Against the Panthers, ooh. I'm going to say the Packers get a win in some odd way. They pull off a victory here. Against the Patriots, that is a loss. Against the Vikings, I say a split because I think that will be Minnesota's fuck you game. Against the Rams, a loss. Against the Saints, a loss. Against the Bills, a loss. Against the Dolphins, a win. Against the Bears, they get swept by Chicago. Against Houston, a loss. Against Detroit, the final game of the season, I see Detroit pulling that off and getting the sweep with Detroit winning. So a breakdown of the Packers' record is 1-0 against Minnesota. 0-1 against Minnesota. 1-1 against the Jets. 2-1 against the Falcons. 2-2 against Tampa. 2-3 against Chicago. 2-4 against the Cowboys. 2-5 against Detroit. 3-5 against the Panthers. 3-6 against the Patriots. 4-6 against Minnesota. 4-7 against the Rams. 4-8 against the Saints. Dang it. It was 4-8 against the Saints where I left off, where my phone decided to pull a pop-up. Let's do it over again. Because this really messed everything up. All right, so let's do this again because my phone decided to act up. Okay, so it was 0-1 against the Vikings, 1-1 against the Jets, 2-1 against the Falcons, 2-2 against Tampa, 2-3 against the Bears. Ugh, fuck. All right, here we go again. 0-1 against Minnesota, 1-1 against the Jets, 2-1 against Atlanta, 3-1, 2-2 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2-3 against Chicago, 2-4 against Dallas, 2-5 against Detroit, 3-5 against the Panthers, fuck. Let's do this again. Why am I having a brain freeze moment? 0-1 against Minnesota, 1-1 against the Jets, 2-1 against Atlanta, 2-2 against Tampa, 2-3 against Chicago, 2-4 against the Cowboys, 2-5 against Detroit, 3-5 against Carolina, 3-6 against the Patriots, 4-6 against the Vikings, 4-7 against the Rams, 4-8 against the Saints, 4-9 against the Bills, 5-9 against the Dolphins, 5-10 against the Bears, 5-11 against the Texans. They will go 5-12 and not make the playoffs. And I think it will be a big mistake in extending LaFleur. And if I were the Packers, I would think about firing his ass. So before we end, if you want to follow us and give us a follow, the link will be down in the description in the box. We are on Facebook. Follow us on the 2300 Facebook page, Spotify, the YouTube channel, all the links to. If you want to send it out to your friends, give us a shout and a ring. Before I end and call it a night and bid adieu, it's just been enough time for talk. It's time for kickoff. I'm Dave Walker, and we'll see you on the field. Good night, everybody.